Alright, this is going to be a bit of a tutorial for this game, Making History, The Calm in the Storm, for Steam. It's actually a really fun strategy game, one of my favorite. I would often talk about it with my friends, saying it's kind of like Axis and Allies or Risk, but on steroids, because it has a lot more going on. So let's get into it. So I'm going to do a single player game. These are the different scenarios that you can start at. We're just going to start at the first one that is a piece, load it. And these are the major countries that you can start as. Each one has a little bio going, explaining what they're doing. We're going to start as Germany though, just to kind of explain what's going on. I like having a little bit more challenge to it though. So I'm going to click into scenario options here, and we're actually going to play the game on, let's just do hard. I can play on harder. I have played on hardest, not very often, but we're going to start the game. I don't have any mods, nothing like that, just plain old, like, what should I do, what should I be worried about, that kind of thing. And with any strategy game, it just kind of, you have to go with the flow, but we're just going to talk about how the beginning of, like, a good opener starts. At least some of the stuff that I find important. And there's always a little tune when you first start of the anthem at the time. Alright, so Germany, located in Europe. I'm the gray. You see what's in your immediate borders. You cannot see the graded areas. So France is all this blue. I can see what's in this territory. These guys are a couple of units. You can click on them, see more information. Cannot see any further in. There's various different resources that are here. Metals, coal. These are all at the top of the screen. This is a city. Many cities, I have the same thing. I have units. There's aircraft. There's navy. There's land forces. So what should be done? How should this game be played? Here's some of your resources on top. I would say your best bet is to actually play the tutorial of the game in the starting menu to get familiar with the user interface. So I'm not going to go too much into that, but here's what I like to start off with. So first, I like getting all my planes here in Silesia, because as much as I might like being the nice guy, I'm not going to survive as the nice guy. Germany loses his edge if he doesn't use it. Use it or lose it, as they say. So right now, we're on top. We have the most potential in the world. Nobody can really tell us no, is the best way to put it. So I'm going to first move all of my planes. I like to right-click rebase, because just moving them, if I just right-click move, sometimes if it's a really long distance, it can take like 3 turns. Whereas if I just tell them to rebase, that's going to happen next turn. So I've gotten in the habit of just rebasing all of my planes. I generally know where they are. Germany is a really small overall starting area. So pretty much everything in my working area is here, and then some of my ships are up here. Now, my navy sucks compared to Britain's, so we are going to move all of our naval fleets into Fort Hamburg as a defensive unit. We have some here, and I'm going to say these cities wrong, but you know, Stettin, just to try and shore up our defenses. Anything out in the ocean is all but dead once Britain goes to war with us, because of ship and overall size of units, which you can see down here. There's this folder icon. I will be going here quite often. 2 major tabs, I would say. The first one, the score. You're not going to see much till things start flowing, but there's going to be charts here showing the different colors. I will be gray. Same thing with the military tab here, but what I'm really interested in just showcasing here is fleets. You can click where it says total ships, and bam, you can see United Kingdom, totally killing it. Japan, I am all the way down here at 20. My 20 is not going to do anything against his 105. So, but in port, you're safe, relatively, as long as they don't take the city. Air forces, sometimes I'm big on it. I'm probably not going to be as Germany, but again, I start out pretty high. Overall armies, the only ones that are beating me are Russia, but the quality of their units are less than mine, and China, and they're far less than mine. If I just look at armored forces in general, which is usually what I go for, you can see I'm on top. Just to give you an idea for how good I'm sitting. Infantry, I'm second. You know, mobile, I'm right up there as well, just a little bit behind Russia. So let's go and consolidate. So turn 1, I like to consolidate. We're getting all of our planes to Silesia. Czechoslovakia's got to go. Now, I like putting a little pressure on the computer. If they see someone on their border, they're going to be less inclined to fight. So these troops all split, 70 in each, defending the Rhineland and Württemberg from France. Not too worried about Netherlands and Belgium, not worried about these guys down here. Poland usually won't declare war, so now we're just going to get the rest of our units closer. Moving everybody on. I'm going to actually move this one from Silesia over to because, or rather from Saxony over to Silesia, because it has access to all 3 territories, whereas the one up here in the north only has access to the Sudetenland. I also have 5 transports. Like I said, later on I'm not going to be going out into the ocean until I have a navy of my own. So the units in East Prussia are landlocked. That's what I will use these transports on. I value artillery and tanks. Infantry doesn't do much for me. We have 5 transports, so we might as well make the best use of them. I'm literally going to just hop these guys around the side. Now, you can, before you've made anyone mad, sort of take some time and try to get military access. The computer sometimes is pretty stupid. Like our last Poland here, guess what? He gave me military access. That doesn't always happen. So now, I don't actually have to do this. This guy just said, yo, you want to move through me? Sweet, go for it. So I say, hey, thanks, buddy. And we're just going to move the whole kit and caboodle straight through. Now, you can ask quite a few different territories for this. Most of them are going to say no, but every turn this is randomized. So I can sit here and just start asking territories like, hey, I haven't made anybody mad yet. I haven't done anything. It's turn 1. Italy, do you like me? No, you don't. But Italy in this game will ally with you. France? No, probably not. Netherlands? Yeah, they like you. Cool. The more military access you can get early on, the better. So if you're playing this game seriously and you really want to be able to kind of push yourself in the right directions, which you can see I've already made access into Russia now. I've gotten all 3 Baltic states and Poland to give me military access. And this is public knowledge. If you click on the swords across the arm symbol here, by default, I'm still, well, here, it depends on where you're selected, right? So I'm on myself. Anything in green I can move through freely. So I have a direct connection to Russia over here. He does not have a direct connection to me. You can click on anyone and you can see what their military access is. So these ones are allied. You know, this is Poland, this is me, Estonia, the Baltic Alliance, and me. So really useful even in a multiplayer game if your friends are doing this and you got a friend that's Britain, just click on him. You're going to see where he can move. So really helpful to check in with the map and see what you can do there. So let's get to the fun stuff, right? Enough of the setting up. Also, before I do, you can double check your navy by clicking on the swords and then just clicking navy, and it'll show you, hey, here's where your stuff is. And I'm trying to get everything to Hamburg, so we're good there. Air Force, we are good there too. So I'm just going to go ahead and in turn, actually wait, before I do, I keep forgetting certain things, I apologize. Germany always starts out aiding China. I don't like that. Aid means you're not getting any money, and they're also importing and exporting in addition with arms to China, which I also don't like. So it's always good to make sure that you're not aiding anyone if you want to make money. And imports and exports, I don't like importing and exporting goods or arms. Oil, I'm totally fine with. In fact, I don't want to import any oil. And most people here would be like, hey, that's bad, you need arms, right? Well, not exactly. So if I look at a city here, this is a better way to illustrate it. If I click change order, you can see arms requires 1 coal, 1 iron, and 1 oil per 1 IPU of arms. So Berlin's 78, so if I tell this to make arms, it's going to need 78 of everything. Which is why, you know, I go up if I'm telling it to do that here in this case. Everything else requires just coal or metals. No oil, only for arms. And the amount of arms you need to keep this stabilized for your army will severely reduce the overall combat power you can have. So I could either have maybe, let's just say, 200 troops that are really fed with arms, or like 1,000 or more with 0 arms. And because of how the game's programmed, I find that it's much easier to actually just totally avoid arms, which means you're totally avoiding oil, which means you really only need coal and metals for your war machine to continue the game. And that's why I cut off all of my oil. And we'll be cutting off our arms here in a second. Exporting, I'm totally fine with. I make a ton of coal, I make a decent amount of metals. Also, if you're in a multiplayer game, Sweden is always offering a lot of metals. Usually. I guess not in this case. But I will take what I can get. Oh, I guess they're only rare. Oh, never mind. I was on arms, wasn't I? Yes, I was, Todd. Metals. Trade negotiations, metals, offer, Sweden, yep, around 80. So there we agreed to buy 80. Now let's say you're playing a multiplayer game and someone's already done that. Shoot, Sweden's not offering anymore. It's better than nothing, but normally if you manually select Sweden, they'll typically sell you up to 30 in addition. You can see he ratified that. So we have a lot of metals here, which for me, that's going to be the bread and butter of how I function, because every tank is going to require metals. So now that that's pretty much squared away where I want to, I'm going to click on this infrastructure tab. This is my food. I'm just going to click up here. This is going to show my top 3 producers, Brandenburg, Bavaria, and Hesse. We're going to upgrade those to level 3. The reason I'm doing that is because each one has a bonus based on its transportation level. So if I click on Brandenburg, actually, wait, I gotta go back the other way. So if I click on this resource producer, and if I click on maxed output, the Rhineland here, you can see that based on my transportation level, which is this symbol right here, I'm getting an extra 53 above and beyond what my maximum could be. So doing the math, what is that, like about 581 is what my output could be, because your output is your max plus your transportation level. There might be a little bit of a detriment with finances here, but I always like to maximize all of this because you need resources to fund your war machine. And also, by clicking on each one of these, I want to upgrade these to the maximum level because they have the maximum potential. And I feel like it's worth the investment to increase this number. So we're just going to do that really quick for a setup. And I don't like to do it for everything because, as you can see, it really doesn't pay when you start getting down here too terribly much. But once I've done it for Saxony once, like I did up here, it's going to do it for the metals and the coal. So Saxony, Silesia, or Rhineland, I don't need to do, or Westphalia. But I will do Lower Saxony, and just because metals are so precious, you know what, let's just do Wittenberg too. I want to have a reliable resource of these things. So now I know that my resources are going to be pumping out as much as they possibly can. So now lastly, let's look at my city. I'm going to click IPUs, that's going to show my highest on top. Now, as I've said before, naval stuff isn't really that worth it. You can finish off this battleship. It's going to take 2 more turns to get that total, and then you'll get 1 more. But personally, I don't think it's worth the wait. I know it's only 2 turns, and again, you know, it's up to you. But I would say if you're Germany, just go all tanks, all the way down to like 30 IPUs is what I say. And I'll explain why later, because again, Blitzkrieg, you're Germany, use it or lose it, as I've said before. Anything that's under 30, I will tell to go to heavy industry. Heavy industry is going to increase that IPU number by 1 after the set amount of turns. I feel like up to 30, it's still producing a tank in 5 turns. That's still pretty reliable, whereas these lower cities definitely need some work. Now, that's what I will do. And as you can see, I have 0 goods, I have 0 arms, I have all tanks, and I'm losing stuff like crazy. And all those metals that I needed, like I said, each one of those cities need metals to produce all these tanks. So that's why I'm maximizing my resources and trading with Sweden to get as much as I need. I'm not going to go to war with Sweden because they're just going to produce and trade with me. Let's hit end turn and I'll kind of show you what the first couple turns of the game look like. So you can see here, my stuff's kind of coming in. My boat went out of port. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to tell it to move in here because once I start declaring wars, things are going to get ugly. We're going to click on one of our planes. I'm just gonna merge all these together. I'm going to temporarily do the same thing with the military, and you can reposition these so that you can see what's going on a little bit better if you need to. But essentially, these are the 3 fronts that I'm going to just crush Czechoslovakia with. This one's obviously going to the top unit here, 210 to 50, really no contest. In the middle here, he's got 2, he's got 40 and 30. I'll be sending my 180. I'll also be sending a good bulk of these units. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually split my tanks and my infantry off, my mounted infantry specifically. These guys are going to go and help in this territory. And this means the 40 down here is going to get crushed by this guy. This guy I'll also send in, but instead I'm going to probably throw about 10 infantry in with these tanks, because I want to take out Czechoslovakia as quickly as I can. So to declare war, you just tell your guy, yep, I want you to move there. If you try to move into a territory that's not yours, you get this warning, you want to go to war? Absolutely. Let's get it done. Now sometimes, since I did that, I'll get a second pop-up saying, this guy declared war on you, or this guy wants to be your friend. The computers will sometimes try to play smart, just so that they don't get crushed. Now, I'm going to tell my units to just keep moving on through this territory in case one battle finishes before the other, because once they're actually in combat, it's a little bit more difficult to get them to the point where they're actually going to move through the countries once it's done. Now, the reason I move my planes over here is I like finding his biggest combat power. So we got 50, 130, 40, and 40. This 130 I actually want to bomb because that's going to make it die that much quicker. So all of my aircraft is now bombing, and this is literally turn 2. So when I hit end turn at the start of turn 3, Czechoslovakia is not going to be in the best, well, they're not going to be happy, we'll put it that way. It's end turn. United Kingdom declared embargo. That's just him saying, play nice. United Kingdom couldn't do anything physically to me right now if he wanted to. And that's just the nature of the game. So here you can kind of click on every battle. Mostly I'm paying attention to this line. That tells me the overall where my power is versus his on a percentage. So this one I'm really close to winning. This one's a little bit more of a struggle. And that one I'm pretty close to winning. So this tank got made in Berlin. Again, we're making tanks everywhere. I'm just going to move that into the Sudetenland, and tanks move pretty quick. Also, something of note, light tanks. Let's go into research. I'm a tank fan. Light tanks, you can see, are the second tier down, all the way down to eventually advanced tanks. Now, light tanks is pretty good. They're pretty quick. They can move pretty far, and there's only 3 countries that start out with them. Germany starts out with them, France starts out with them, the ability to build them, that is. And oddly, Hungary starts out with them. Nobody else in the world starts out with them. Everyone else has early tanks, which are much slower and weaker, or some countries don't start with tanks at all and need to actually research them. So that's where we're just going to make use of this advantage. Now, I'm just going to keep ending turn here. Alright, you can see we're kind of starting to break through what's going on with Czechoslovakia. So I'm just going to move this guy back up over here. I'm not too worried about this guy. This guy can move pretty quickly because I have all really fast units, but I am going to make sure that my tanks get all the way through, because once you fully clear out an opponent, like you've taken all of their countries, they'll unconditionally surrender, and that's what we're going for. Their armies will disappear. So I'm not too worried about this plane that's trying to do whatever it's going to do to me. We're going to use our plane to bomb, not the metals. You can bomb the resource, but we want to provide air support for the combat, even though we're pretty much winning. Get our new tanks and move into the Sudetenland as well. And we're going to end turn, we're going to be good. And there we did it. We've totally finished everyone you can see here, and we're getting a pop-up because we took this country. So this country here is Slovakia. We can make it an independent, or we can just keep it. We're just going to keep it. I don't want to have to deal with a computer. I'm Germany, I'm ruthless, being the bad guy here, so we're just going to deny independence. And here it gives me the notification that I've taken everything. And because I did, some of their stockpiles go to me. Alright. So now, I can click on this diplomacy thing and I can see I have no wars. This is now all my countries, Germany. And with it come the cities and the resources. So I can go into the resources here, and I can see, oh, Bohemia, that actually makes like a decent amount of food, and that used to be a Czechoslovakian thing. So I'm going to upgrade food. I can also go into the resource producers, and I can see here, oh, you know, where are some of the high numbers here? Bohemia. Oh, same kind of place. Also the Sudetenland that I just took up there. So, really not too bad. And even Moravia has a decent amount of coal. So, these first 3 countries, I actually like to increase transportation because it's going to increase the output of those minerals and the food. So we're going to do that in all 3 countries. And I could have done it on that other screen, but I'm just showing you guys here that you can do it on this map too. I also have a couple cities now that aren't doing anything. Now with cities, it's kind of important to see what the culture is of the region. Like I can see these down here, Ruthenian, Slovakian, Czech, but the Sudetenland is actually German. So I'm totally fine with upgrading Paisan, since its output is at 25. We want to get that one up to 30. This one, Prague, is almost there, but because of the detriment, you can see it's going to make 22 here. It's a little bit lower, and that's just simply because even though the number here is higher, the culture is really high. So that's what I'm doing on those 2. On these ones, though, I'm just going to switch them to goods, because eventually I'll need goods. Now, let me explain what I mean by that, because you might be looking at my resources up here and thinking, hey, you have no stockpile of goods anymore. You're losing 269 a turn. That's going to be bad, right? Your arms are already bad, which, yeah, they're starting to do a detriment to my armies. But the goods, what I'm rather looking at is this here. If I hover my mouse over it, you can see it said, goods supply shortage penalty is 0. My current level is 96%, but I only get a penalty below 50%. So I can keep losing nothing, having no toasters whatsoever, and I will have 0 penalty for it, as long as I don't get below that point. And that's why I really push myself to not have any goods right away, and I only worry about them later. And you can see, again, even more tanks are building now because of the initial setup. Also, while I'm on Hamburg here, just for convenience sake, I'm going to merge all of my navy together. They don't do it automatically, but I like having just one big navy, so when I look, you can see it's all right there. The reason I have it in Hamburg is because eventually Britain's going to try and unload. We can kind of stop that, or at least stop it from happening early on by having our navy there, and I'll show you when that happens. But for now, it's time to knock out the next biggest threat, and that's France. So we are going to rebase to the Rhineland with our planes. All of our units are going over, which is going to take a minute. I'm just going to merge everything so I'm not clicking around too much. And it's a lot of just being aggressive. Just doing that German thing. And you can see our metals have actually balanced out now, and that's because I've been maximizing those resources of making my own stuff. And at this point, I'd say we're close enough. Let's just invade France. It's not always good to be historically accurate. It's better to be aggressively victorious. Knowing your enemies and what you can do to stop them. Now, I'm not too worried about leaving this totally undefended. Poland's not going to fight me, and even if he does, I can retreat and crush him with the army size that I have. And you can see just like that, I knocked out 11 of France's troops, only lost 2. These are random updates with this lady. I just click OK. It's just an extra 3. I mean, not that big of a deal. Oh, Britain doesn't like me. Now United States is going to declare embargo. France has joined Britain. I don't really care. That has zero bearing on the fact that France is just going to die in a second. Alright, so for sake of ease and my OCD, I'm going to merge everything. So we have a total of 96 divisions, 1630 combat power, compared to his like 70, which is nothing, and that's why they allied to fight me. Now, I want to sweep through this country as quickly as possible. I don't want to just spearhead in because you need a supply line. You can see right now, all this red is because Britain declared war on me because they're holding the sea zone. If I had trade with someone else or whatever, if I had like a unit way out here in the sea, if they don't have a connection to my home territory, I get an automatic minus to my arms here on the right-hand side at a 75% rate. I don't want that. So you never want to just spearhead in with your army. So I'm going to split this a little bit. At least for some of the stuff that's relevant, or at least easy enough to do. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna split it all. Just some kind of simple math here to get it mostly split. Okay, we're gonna do that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send half of this army into here and half into here. And once again, I'm going to have my plane bomb weakest link. Now, I doubt I'm going to need any help in here, but for the first couple turns, I will send these tanks across. You can see they can make it there in 1 turn. So, super, super simple. Also, since we took this city, I'm just going to really quickly put on goods. I'm also going to really quickly have it start upgrading because this is a huge producer for metals and coal. France is a natural mine when it comes to metal, one of the highest producers in the world, so taking it over is definitely going to pay off in the end. Okay, you can see see we got a little bit of a struggle there. We will just send the rest of our troops in that we are making into that fight. And we will use this one to spread out around the area, knock out everything else, all these other stragglers. I'm actually going to take my cannons because they're super slow. I'm just going to throw them right in that battle. I'm going to split this force yet again because he has mostly weaker units. I'm not too worried. I'm going to send one up and around, back down. And this one I'm just going to cut across because if I can separate this country here that I've highlighted from his capital, that's where the resource line is. So if I can cut this off, which I would have to circle back down and take Providence to do as well. So we're going to actually go like that. And then we'll loop back around. That's going to make this battle that much quicker. Alright, so we've got a couple armies tied up here. And we're mostly just winning. This has really no resistance. Britain's throwing all of like 40 combat power in against us. I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to actually let them just land because, again, I'm not really concerned. The only thing that I want to be mindful of is if Britain was trying to unload in the North Sea here. Which I'm familiar enough with the ships to know that those are just destroyers, and these are Netherlands ships. So you can see I just swooped around. France is now isolated. I'll show you what that looks like. So this is me. That's France. So you can see his own countries are red to him, which means if I fight these guys, they're not going to have any chance of really stopping me. And you can see Britain knows that, and he's trying to get back in there and, you know, link that up by taking Normandy. So what I'm going to actually do is we're going to very carefully intercept him. And I'm just going to tell all these guys to go through here because they're going to actually hit in Paris here and take it over. I'm going to let this guy continue. I'm going to let my artillery go down. And that guy will go up and take over France. So with any luck, we'll be taking most of this next turn. I also want to be sure that I knock these guys out. So I'm not in range to get that guy. It doesn't turn to the target. I am in range for this guy and this guy. Yeah, we'll knock this guy. Actually, let's knock out these tanks a little bit. We'll call that good. Actually bomb this little rock army, which doesn't have much to it. Doing fine here, and we're just going to move this guy here into Germany. And I'm just letting things happen. I'm going to leave these tanks back here. I don't even need them anymore. I see France is trying to bomb me. That's really all that's going on here. I'm watching this ship right here. I don't see any ships in the North Sea. I'm pretty safe. So now that I've taken France, usually you'll get this pop-up. This is a built-in program into the game where it kind of follows the effects of the war. It's like saying, France is saying, hey, yo, you're really kicking my butt. I surrender. As long as you stop beating me, I will, you know, give you full control of the territories. So I'm going to accept because I've taken everything that I want to here. And now France is mine, and I'm not at war with him anymore. He's just hanging out down here. and he has no wars. So definitely detrimental, and as you can see, I've now gained all of this, including all of his cities. I'm doing quite well. I'm just going to upgrade the food here. I'm going to take a look at the maximum I can see Normandy. I definitely want to upgrade that. So we're going to upgrade the infrastructure, transportation. Bohemia already is. Moravia already is. Sudetenland already is. Burgundy, we'll upgrade that as well, for the same kind of reason. Champagne will upgrade. Provence. And France. And I'm just going to click on orders here. I'm going to tell all these individual mines or resources to output the max that they can, because with as much war as I'm doing, I don't want to be relying on anyone. And as you can see in world trade, I mean, I'm starting to pop up on the metals and the coal quite a bit. You can actually look at the folder now that a few turns have won, and you can see the military power here. I'm starting to go up. This is France, the blue. He's definitely starting to go down. Not really hurting me anything there. And then in the economics, you can see I am just absolutely taking over. Very sharp upward. I'm almost caught up with Britain. This is America, leaving Russia in the dust, and France is unfortunately a very sad looking creature right now because he's crippled. Now with that, I haven't made any allies, but you can see Britain here is doing his thing. This is what I was talking about. He's looking to just quickly, oh, you're busy down here in France, I'm going to take over Schleswig-Holstein. Well, guess what, buddy? I mean, first of all, maybe I don't have any troops lying in wait, but I do. So I'm not too worried even if I didn't have a backup. But all those ships that I was talking about, I'll just show you guys. I'm just literally telling them to leave port. Ships will always leave port before troops unload. Let me just show you that really quick. Also, let me knock out Britain over here because he's going to be annoying. So, you didn't really see anything happen, but if you look at the combat here, you can see I came out, killed his 2 destroyers, and all of his stuff. Well, Britain doesn't like that. So what he's going to be doing is he's absolutely going to be moving his navy now over to the North Sea because he sees my navy exposed. All I have to do is tell them to enter Port Hamburg. And I'm just going to go in, out, in, out, in, out, catching anything that might try and land here. And meanwhile, I'll defend the coast of France here. Now, I'm going to stop this video for now just because it's very involved and very detailed with what I do. But depending on if I get military access here, which I did, and that my next target ultimately is Russia, I'm strong enough to beat him. He's got a lot of good resources in the Ukraine area. If I didn't get military access, I would try to get it with Romania. Sometimes they'll give it to you, sometimes they won't. If they never do and I don't get any military access, I'll then declare war on Romania, loop through, they're super easy to knock out, and then Russia. Ultimately next, I will move over, I will knock out China, because he can be very difficult, especially on higher difficulties. And along with it, knocking out India, which is Britain's heartland, and thereby moving through, finally, on my way back, moving through Turkey, through the Suez, taking the Suez, declaring war on Egypt, knocking out Saudi Arabia in the process, and killing Britain's assets down here, including South Africa. And if France is still fighting me, I'll knock him out then too. Doing all of that to Britain will cripple him. And as far as research, I usually like to, once I'm settled at this point, start spending some research towards getting advanced tanks, and eventually down the road I get some ships. When I start in the first scenario here, everyone starts out with basic battleships. Advanced battleships take too long to get to, whereas the best time spent, I believe, it's always just better to go for large cruisers. And you can produce them at a more steady rate given that you don't have any overly huge cities. So usually I'll start that research. You can skip medium tanks. Heavy tanks only requires light tanks. And never make medium tanks. And advanced tanks require heavy tanks. So that's what my research will look like. I'll usually try to fill up my IPUs to make sure that I hit those. You can click on this globe. You can see right here how many IPUs you have assigned. So I'll usually go through here and, start assigning some research just to make sure that I can hit that 160 without really detrimenting my tanks. Now usually I won't use Paris just because I like keeping my 30s where they're at. Paisan now is where I need it to be. So I will actually switch that to tanks as well. Marseille, I actually like to build this up too, and that's simply because ports. You're gonna need cities that are decently high, somewhere around 50 to 60 at least, because then they're advanced cities to make ships. So Marseille and a lot of these original German cities that show up down here, I'm going to keep pushing those through industry even after they get to 30 because I'm going to need ships. But all of these other little ones that I got from France that are not like Lille here is in Picardy. Picardy is French. All of these are not going anywhere for ships. Even these ones, it's not really high enough to really put forth the effort in my opinion, so we're just going to make it goods because again, I don't want to hit that penalty of below 50%. I'm only at 70 now, but the more I can put towards goods, the more I'm kind of staving that off. And also remember your cities. Nuremberg down here, I don't want to switch that. That's German. Mainz, that's German as well. Now the one thing I will do is these smaller looking cities, if they don't say upgrade industries and they just say light industry, it only usually takes like a turn to get them close-ish to level 10. So a lot of the times I will let them go if they're below that level, just to get a few more points out of them, because what's a few more goods? And that's basically how I play Making History. I think it's a really fun game. I think it's really cool. It's just a fun way to learn geography, to learn the city names, to get a feel for what it might have been like during World War II. If you like strategy, I highly, highly recommend it. It's on Steam, and yeah, hopefully this video was informative for you guys.